All right. Seg hit 61 before my podcast tonight. Let's do this. Whew. I am so far behind. I am very. Hi. I like the corgi. Yeah, I'm just playing my game here before my podcast tonight with RJ and Jackson. I don't know how far everyone's at so far, Guild. Some are still in the low 60s, some are in the 70s, almost high 60s. Oh, God, I'm way far behind. Da, 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 da. Uh-huh. No, no. Uh, all right. Oh. Nice. Ooh, that's quick. I got grouped. Run away! Run away! Oh boy. Ramp. All right, going to the ramps. Yeah. And we go. Okay. Right. Set focus. Oh, no. What's Oh boy. All right. Let's do this. What's happening is right now I'm another plant. I am a a cow. I am a walking cow called a Tauren, and I am another planet. I'm a druid. I'm a healing druid, and I'm another planet trying to save it from a bunch of demons. and a night and an evil night elf. It's not really evil, but we don't know that. It's complicated. Right. Getting faster than dying faster than I'd like. All right. I'm getting closer to level 61 finally. Uh, 86 more to level. Just keep everyone alive and I'll be fine. Oh, wait, you're gonna die soon. Crap. No. All right. 85 more levelings to go. Yeah, I got it. God. Yeah, I got it. Gotta concentrate here. Damn it, what? Sorry. Sorry about that. Yeah, good. Fixing. Here we go. Comes the boss. Never mind. Right back. God, that was close. $68 bone chewers. Regrowth. I time to get my thing up again. No. Right. Be wary of any intruders. Oh boy. Ooh. Like a victory. Nope. Done. Nope. The victory. Agreed. Plate. Oh yes, plate. Yeah. Totally need that plate for the money, perhaps. Keep an eye on the tank. Keep an eye on the tank. Yep, fighting. All we do here is fighting, killing things, killing more things, killing the evil demon possessed orcs right now. As opposed to the good orcs that we're friends with. And the zombies we're friends with. We're, we're friends with cow people, orcs, trolls, elves, and zombies. That's our gang. The rival gang are humans, dwarves, blue elves, goat people, and gnomes. There are rivals, but right now there are allies. So we're not technically at war with the other faction yet. Of the zombie, these are good. By the way, these are good zombies. They broke. They're under a hive mind. They've regained their senses. Lore, gotta love it. At least I do. Yeah. A lot of people to heal at that time. I wish I could talk, but nothing's really happening. So there's no point. I guess I could sing Beauty and the Beast like I'm doing now, I guess. Because I sure. Bear and the Beauty and the Bear. It's one of the Burning Legion. No, this is not Burning Legion. This is I guess, is he Burning Legion region, or is he one of Illidan's people? God. Kill the ads. Kill the minions. Two. Come on. Ooh. Nope. Not really that big of an improvement for me. All right. Got my that back up again. Healing my mana regeneration. Very important. Yes. Balefire. Come on, come on, come on, come on, Blizzard. No, 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 no. Come on. And that. Yay, you did it. All right. Oh, quick. I can't find them. Here we go. The southern ramparts. Six, 8. Jeez. Yeah, either way. Either way. Whee! Check west. Oh boy. They'll purge the buffs. That ain't good. That ain't good at all. Crap. Farmers oldest time. Need to make more food soon. Gotta raise my stats. My cooking is really low. I am so far behind in everything but herbalism and alchemy, which I need to start doing soon. Ooh, got my first fill, Orc Blood. Up the stairs we go. Oh, no. What? Oh, 4 more Levis calls. Plate. Yes, definitely need a plate. Definitely need plate. Oh, one more level. One more level. One more level. Yes. Ding. All this time. can't type it. Nice. Oh, I gotta. I haven't how I can pick. What should I pick? What should I pick? Two more bloods. I hear you. What am I thinking again? Oh, watch out for the mine creeks. I don't know. Crap. 9. Any more? Nope, no more. And 10. Ooh, the Maker. First boss. Yeah, shut up, Pit Lord. Wait. All right. Oh. So that's okay. Yeah. I should know. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Da, 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 da. Someone's still watching. It looks like. Don't know who it is. It's still you, Corgi. Hey, how you doing? I haven't played for an hour. Jeez. Only 1,000 more orcs to level. Awesome. Ooh, got more blood. Got the blood. More blood's been gotten. Hooray for blood. The blood of the orcs. Or the blood of the demon. So, where are these guys to level? It must be the more powerful ones. Hmm. Anyway, still no map of this place. Okay, so use my. Okay. What's everything? Hey, look, a spammer in my Twitch chat. Thanks, spammer. You're appreciated. Spending time. The Gunblade. Hey, it's a Final Fantasy VIII reference. Maybe. Not too bad. Hmm. arm wrestle this time. Nope. See that I pure. Too bad. God. More Shadowman Warlocks. Kill the familiars. Kill the familiars. Kill the familiars. I thought this is the. I don't know. I thought this is the place of the big hole in the floor. I think it might be the next place. But it could be thing. Oh nope! Is it the place? I have. I did. Uh, Oh boy, here we go. Ooh, this guy's smart. Yay. That's the plan. I'm evil. Okay, no, I'm not evil. I see him down there. Okay. No. Yay. Nope. Wait. Um, okay, where? Friend, character friend. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe I forget. Heart of Rage. Add a Pit Lord. It seals that they must be using a blood from this Pit Lord to create new fireworks. Not letting the Baron Legion. If they can do this to the Magnar Brown work, they can do this to us. Heart of it. Ooh. I got my upgraded neck. Ooh, there he is. Blood is life. Quickly. Your ability. Ooh. Your calculation was asked of you. This blood is delivered to those who can unlock its mysteries. Maybe we can reverse the process. I wonder. My helmet. No. Yeah. All right, we'll be back after these messages.
I don't know.
Hey, I'm back.
Third dimension. They went to the
And now I'm
energetic
listening
axis of the
to
Earth and constructed a
Dapper
complex
doing
which today is
stuff.
called the solar cross.
Right, I'm back.
Wait, what were the items on that? Hold on. I gotta look back.
Third
at this.
dimension. They went to the male energetic axis of the Earth and constructed a.
Okay, so the Sphinx is clearly not on this spiral, and the three pyramids. We get to size this spiral at any point, because if we do, then any three objects are going to look like they kind of fit some part of the spiral eventually, right? No matter how you configure them, as long as you're willing to be a bit loosey-goosey with what counts as being on the spiral, since even in Jordan's picture, the least pyramid isn't actually centered on the spiral, then yeah, you can fit any arrangement of any three objects onto this spiral. It's meaningless. It's just more Texas sharpshooter fallacy. Find three things that are cool. I can put them on a spiral. If you want to, I'm pretty sure you could probably find a way to put them and the Sphinx on the same spiral, as long as you're willing to shift around where it goes. It's just complete nonsense. It's pattern seeking, pareidolia, it's the Texas sharpshooter, all of those things, right? They're all happening here. Jordan sees these cool buildings. There must be a pattern. There's some pareidolia. Then he's willing to use any kind of spiral he wants, any size spiral, just throw a spiral on there, and boom, we got some Texas sharpshooter fallacy happening. There's nothing significant about this.
Complex, which today is called the solar cross. These men were six-dimensional beings at that time and were living at a very high level of consciousness, so whatever they thought happened instantly.
Then why didn't they just think humans into being at Christ consciousness right now? Or did you not actually mean that whatever they thought came into being? And if they could just do anything by simply thinking it, and they wanted to show us about this great, cool, golden mean spiral sacred geometry, why didn't they do anything more significant than just putting three pyramids in roughly a line? Like, couldn't you do a whole bunch of pyramids that actually make the spiral? Or couldn't you put Jordan's like sacred flower of life patterns around? Like anything that is more significant than building three things that look like tombs that are kind of in a line. It's just very frustrating because none of this makes sense. It's all just nonsense. But somehow there are people who buy into it, and I don't get it. And the thing is, like, you look at other things that people believe, and at least a lot of times it's internally coherent, right? Like we were mentioning earlier, like Scientology, right? Jordan makes less sense than Scientology. That's because Scientology internally makes some sense. On its own terms, it tends not to be self-contradictory. Now, it fails to live up to its predictions, right? Like people who've achieved clear don't suddenly never get angry anymore. And people who are on the operating Thetan levels have never demonstrated any superpowers, even though they're supposed to. But at least if you look at it as like a fictional construct, it internally makes some sense. But this stuff is just gibberish mostly.
It was that simple. According to Thoth, he built the Great Pyramid, not the Egyptian king Cheops. Thoth says that it was built 200 years prior to the pole shift and built very quickly.
So, if it was built prior to the pole shift, you can remember, for Jordan, a pole shift isn't the magnetic pole shifting. It's the surface of the Earth flying around like a crazy top or something. Why didn't it get thrown off? Because the thing is, what holds the pyramids together is primarily just gravity, right? It's just rocks stacked on rocks. It's not a single solid object. If you had a big enough crane, you could just lift the rocks off individually and essentially disassemble any of the pyramids from like the top down. So why didn't all of these rocks just get flown off into a pile? When the entire crust of the Earth started flailing about like a fish on land. The only thing I can think of is that Jordan thinks that momentum is not a real thing. That's the only conclusion I can come to. Jordan doesn't believe in momentum. He thinks that's crazy talk. Momentum is for other people.
Pyramids were aligned precisely with both Fibonacci and golden mean spirals emanating from out of the solar cross.
No, they're not. That's only the case because you chose to make it the case, Jordan. The solar cross doesn't actually occur anywhere on the plateau. This spiral doesn't occur anywhere on the plateau. You just fit your solar cross and your spiral to fit your idea. The Sphinx isn't even on it. Sorry. It's just very frustrating how obvious the sharpshooter fallacy is here, and how oblivious Jordan seems to that fact. And how he's just going to, I'm just going with it.
Interestingly enough, Edgar Cayce also channeled that the pyramids were constructed in this time.
Interestingly enough, someone who channeled that the pyramid channeled before Doom Below Melchizedek channeled that they were built at this time, also channeled they were built at this time. No. Jordan, what that is evidence of possible dependence, right? How do you know Doom Below Melchizedek, who runs in these New Age conspiracy theory circles already, didn't read the works of Cayce, who was kind of the founder of a lot of these New Age conspiracy theories? I'm going to go out on a limb and say I think he probably did. And I think that whether consciously or subconsciously, Doom Below Melchizedek made his quote-unquote revelations compatible with the earlier publicly available Cayce revelations. It's not surprising that someone who came decades later had ideas that were similar to another guy that had some ideas similar to his. That's just how humans work, right? It's like someone tomorrow tells you the story of Star Wars and changes some of the names. Do you think that what that means is that both George Lucas and this guy actually channeled the spirits of long dead Jedi from a galaxy far, far away? Or do you think maybe George Lucas made up Star Wars, this guy watched it, changed a few details, and then pretended it was his own story? I mean, it's pretty basic Occam's razor, right? We don't need crazy ancient alien spirit Nakals or whatever. We can just have this thing called literary dependence.
The pyramids were also found to be built from the top down.
No, they weren't. They just weren't. While we don't have great records of the building of the pyramids themselves, we have lots of records of how Egyptians built things. And just like everyone else in the history of the entire world, they built things the only possible way, bottom up.
The stones on top were placed first, which has baffled researchers ever since.
No, it hasn't baffled researchers because no legitimate researchers believe this. Like, you don't have Egyptologists going around about how, oh yeah, the pyramids, they were totally built top down. Yeah. How would you even tell? Like, honestly, what would it look like if the pyramids were built top down as opposed to being built bottom up? I don't even know. So it's not going to baffle researchers because there's no reason to think that it did happen. There'd be no real way to test or falsify the hypothesis in the first place. There's a good reason to think it didn't happen. So yeah, no, it doesn't baffle anyone except the crazy people who think Jordan has anything worthwhile to say. And for $4.99 US, Vandali 1998 says, so did Jordan take every mythology and combine them together? Yeah, basically. Yep. So I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but basically what Jordan likes to do is he casts as wide a net as possible. And I think the reason he does this is because this means that almost anyone in the world has a chance of having heard of the things that he's talking about. And that is like, they're into the Jordan craziness. So, so it's true. He hasn't done much Norse or Australian stuff. But I'm going to suspect that Jordan is going to get into that eventually. Because I think one of the reasons I think he's doing a lot of Hebrew, ancient Greek, and Egyptian stuff is because that's the stuff that we have some of the earliest written records for. And I think that as Jordan gets farther ahead in time, he's going to start connecting in things that we have only later records on. Because you're going to remember, like, the we have only very, very late in terms of, broad, sweep of human history records for, say, Aboriginal mythology or Norse mythology. Aboriginal Australia.
Every time more is learned about the pyramids, we move further into dark on understanding how they were formed.
No, that's not true. So, at first it was a complete mystery, but then we uncovered things like the village near the pyramids where the workers lived, and so we learned that it was made probably not by slaves, but generally by well-provisioned, probably well-paid free craftsmen. We're basically doing this sort of like a government job. Then we found art depicting how Egyptians generally constructed things. They used sledges that were either human or later on animal drawn. At this point, they probably would have been human drawn. They sometimes would lubricate under the sledge with bits of water. They would float big rocks down the river if they needed to go from a faraway quarry. We've since found things like internal ramps in the pyramids that would allow people to smoothly move rocks up into place the whole time. And yeah, there are still things that we don't know about the construction of the pyramids, but they're not some ever deepening mystery.
If what Thoth says is true, well, that explains everything.
No, it explains literally nothing. Because all you've done is say, oh, some Atlantean king magicked the pyramids into existence. That doesn't help at all. How did he do it? Could we repeat this technique? Could he show up? Apparently, Drunvalo Melchizedek now knows everything that Thoth knew. So could we get Drunvalo Melchizedek to make a new pyramid to show us how it's done? Maybe he could continue the golden mean spiral and actually make it a real golden mean spiral. How about that?
From there, Thoth and friends constructed an entire network of temples and structures along this grid fourth dimensionally, placing them on nodes on the new synthetic Christ consciousness grid they were creating. All of them were made with Fibonacci or golden mean spirals, and all of them were mathematically referred back to the solar cross in Egypt through the Great Pyramid.
Again, it's just citation needed. Are you going to show us a map of these locations? Are you going to show us that they all conform to exactly the same spiral, or are you just going to fit whatever spiral you can to various ones? He hasn't so far even tried to fit a golden mean spiral onto other locations. Like, you don't get to just say these things and then walk away from the statement. You have to actually demonstrate it. So, yeah. I'll also point out that he keeps showing this picture, which actually shows the two least pyramids, in addition to the three great pyramids. But he doesn't bother putting them on his map of the spiral. Maybe because they don't fit the spiral.
The creation of all of the sacred sites on the planet were no accident. It was
Of course they weren't an accident. People wanted sacred sites. I mean, that's all it is. And then if you draw lines between all of them, congrats, you've drawn lines between the sacred sites.
single consciousness that created them all, from Machu Picchu to Stonehenge to Zaghuan. You name it. There are a few exceptions, but most were created by a single awareness as part of Unity Consciousness Grid.
I like how this grid is basically just made up by Jordan so he can go wherever he wants it to. And even he is like, not everything fits the grid. Like, you could just draw it so it does. It's your made-up grid anyway.
Although the Great Pyramid was done all at once, many of these ancient structures of the world were made fourth dimensionally and slowly dropped in frequency until they manifested on the third dimension over a long period of time.
What? Couldn't we have at least one example of an ancient structure that couldn't actually be made with ancient technology? If we're manifesting these out of the fourth dimensional Christ consciousness omnipotent magic, where you can, anything you think happens, right? How about you drop down a pyramid that isn't just built from bottom down? It's entirely one solid piece of, I don't know, gold. It's a solid hunk of gold, encased in solid steel to protect it. And the whole thing has no seams whatsoever, no tool marks. Why is it that all of these structures are made of stone, bits of stone that are human movable and all have tool marks on them? Why is that? Honestly, it's a really good question. Because the thing is if we found sacred sites that couldn't be built humans, either at the time or now, that would be pretty good evidence that something weird is going on, something significant. But no, Thoth and company are just magicking into existence temples and sacred sites that could have just been made by any old humans with enough drive. And we have from Vandalion 1998 for 199 a single awareness. The Borg did this, possibly. But yeah, it's very frustrating because all of these things have indications that humans made them. In some cases, we know where the quarries were for the stones, and we even have, in many cases, blocks of stone that either shattered or cracked during their excavation, so they were abandoned, or that were doing just fine, but they weren't actually needed, and so they just weren't finally snapped away from the underlying rock. And we find that stuff all over the place. You can find it in South America, you can find it in Africa, you can find it in Asia. Everywhere where these big stone objects are made, you can find ones that never got finished. In fact, you can even find it for the Moai in Easter Island. You know, the statues with the big heads. Some people think of them as just the heads, but that's just because many of them, the soil around them has essentially built up after eroding down from the mountains and essentially buried them. But there are unfinished Moai on Easter Island. None of this was just magically poofed into existence. We have the quarries. In some cases, we also even have finished blocks that just weren't used.
Richard Hoagland's research brings this forward, but he wasn't the first either. They showed how one sacred site is extrapolated from another to another to another.
Yeah, look, if you draw a bunch of arbitrary lines and circles, you can connect things. Great. But look, they're even cherry picking which sites to use. There's a whole lot more cathedrals and ancient sites and henges and all of these things all over the place. Look, many of these things only have 2 points to connect them, maybe 3 in some cases. We've only got 2 points: St. Michel's Island and that Chartres, France. Okay, you drew a circle in which both of those were on it, and then you drew a line through it to Sintra, and then you drew a few more lines. Like, this is just nonsense. It's just a whole bunch of Texas sharpshooter.
A hot topic of discussion right now are ley lines. These are,
like I said, ley lines. They're completely meaningless.
Simply geometric relations between sacred sites. Archaeologists are now finding these huge connections between major spiritual sites in the globe, and now we know why they're connected.
Yeah, they're connected because if you draw enough lines, eventually some of them are going to pass over more than 2 objects that you think are of significance, and then you're going to keep those lines. That's all it is. There's nothing else going on here.
These sites had to be built physically so that the Christ consciousness grid could manifest. In a way, think of the physical sites as the wiring of a giant wireless electrical system, and then it needs about 13,000 years of continuous energy flow for it to actually turn on.
Okay, so one question I have about this is, if all these sacred sites are being poofed magically into existence by the same 3 dudes, then why aren't there no more than 3 different styles, right? If these are carefully engineered power grids to turn on the etheric crystal matrix from the upper dimensions, why aren't they similar? You're like, lots of them have pyramids. Okay, well, first, the pyramids aren't very similar. Many of them are stepped, some of them are smooth-sided, some of them have a bit of a combination of both, like Mesoamerican pyramids where they have pretty smooth stairs, but around that was stepped pyramids. Some of them have ritual centers at the top, some of them don't. Some of these things aren't even pyramids in the first place. Some of the things that are quote-unquote pyramids, like many of the temples in like Southeast Asia, were actually just decorative bits that don't have any real internal structure and aren't buildings unto themselves. So can anything be a conduit for the grid? Like any old building? Doesn't apparently have to be pyramids. It doesn't have to be a particular shape. Why not just put houses down there? Is the house I'm in right now capable of projecting energy into the etheric crystal dimension grid? If not, why not? Because it wasn't magicked into place? Maybe.
And just so that you're not left in suspense, yes, the grid was completed
Yay!
and is now active, though not really used. Congratulations, Earth. We actually survived.
So, if that's the case, then we should all be at Christ consciousness. Because the initial setup for the story was, if the human species doesn't reach Christ consciousness in 13,000 years, apparently we go extinct. I don't know why. But apparently, we made it. We're not extinct. Therefore, we're all at Christ consciousness. But I gotta be honest, it doesn't seem like Jordan thinks we're all at Christ consciousness. Because he keeps talking about Christ consciousness as if it's something that you need to, attain. You can look for it. It hasn't happened for everyone yet. But he's also saying that there are all these ancient people who had Christ consciousness. So some people having Christ consciousness isn't the same thing as the species as a whole having Christ consciousness. We don't seem to have Christ consciousness now. So why did we survive? Is the grid a replacement for Christ consciousness? Because earlier it was supposed to be a tool to get to Christ consciousness. See? It's still just nonsense.
Not only has Thoth told us this in person, but he's also written it down in the Emerald Tablets. These tablets were left in the Great Pyramid thousands of years ago.
Except we don't actually have Emerald Tablets. We have the writings of Drunvalo Melchizedek, which, spoiler, aren't on tablets made of emerald. It's just paper.
There are 12 tablets in total, formed from a substance created through alchemical transmutation. They are imperishable, resistant to all elements and corrosion. Their atomic structure is fixed in place, and no change can ever take place.
I mean, all of that is really cool. But do you have a sample? Can we go find one emerald tablet to show that any of this is the case, right? Because otherwise, you're just making up all sorts of really cool properties that, whatever. It's like describing the alien from Aliens, right? It's cool within the story, but if I tell you, oh, there's a creature with blood that's such a strong acid, it can eat through, miles of metal, and it goes through anything that it touches, no matter what it is, and the only thing that can protect it, that can be, protection against this acid is the alien's own physical body, and they can burst out of your chest, and all of this. I mean, that's great, right? But if it isn't real, if I don't have an example of this thing, no one should take me seriously as this is a claim about reality that really exists, right? Especially when it's a physical object. If you were like, oh, there are these spiritual writings that exist in the fourth dimension that can be transmitted, then I'd be like, well, at least it's a maybe, because I don't know how to assess that claim. But these apparently physically exist, but we don't have any copies of it. So right now we're in the same situation as the golden plates from the Book of Mormon. Until you produce one, there's very good reason to think that they don't exist.
In that respect, they violate the material laws of ionization.
What? Ionization? Is Jordan just grabbing random sciencey words? The laws of ionization. Okay, Jordan, sure.
Tablets share a great wisdom, and you can read them at over 100 different levels of consciousness, and you will always understand them differently.
How many levels of consciousness are there? So far, I haven't heard much more than 6. So does that mean that even though Thoth is at the point where he's omnipotent, one of the things he can't do is read the tablets at the highest level of consciousness?
If you're interested in this stuff, you should definitely consider reading.
So Silver Harlow says, how do you get a sample of an indestructible object? You just have one of them. The whole thing just counts as your sample now. So what I would expect to see is at least one of these emerald tablets somewhere in the world actually being tested.
As you can probably tell, Thoth plays a pretty large role in what happened. Most of this information comes from him. Thoth also
allegedly, it comes from someone channeling him.
Provided most of this information about the flower of life and its geometric relationship to consciousness with us.
But there's no obvious connection between the flower of life and consciousness. It's just a bunch of circles that make a pretty pattern. What significance is there to it? Now, I know he probably tried to describe this in an earlier video or something, but that really is all it is. if you take enough cool shapes and arrange them in funny regular patterns, you get more cool shapes. But that's just a logical consequence of geometry. How do we know that's significant? We don't. So the Heathen Wizard says the Emerald Tablet is a late antique hermetical text. It's not written on emerald. So I don't know if that's the case. I'm willing to take your word for it at this point. But that's one of the things about Jordan is he'll take real things and then make crazy versions of them. Or in this case, maybe Drunvalo Melchizedek, a name I apparently have trouble saying, is doing that. And yeah, I would not be surprised at all if either Jordan or Drunvalo Melchizedek heard about a Hermetic text, which, by the way, if people don't know, Hermeticism is it's sort of a loose affiliation of religious movements centered in late antiquity Egypt. So this is sort of like around the time that Christianity is spreading through the Middle East and Europe, and it still really hasn't replaced a lot of other religious movements. And in this time, there's a syncretic group called the Hermeticists that start writing various texts focusing on a character that is a sort of hybrid between Hermes from the Greek mythology and Thoth from Egyptian mythology. And you can't really get a sense of like a real biography for this character, but he has interactions with certain stock characters that either the stock characters reveal some wisdom to him, or much more commonly, he reveals some wisdom to the stock characters through things like dialogues and stories. And anyway, yeah, I don't need to get into a whole big thing on Hermeticism because, first of all, I don't know all that much about Hermeticism, but that's just a basic overview of the kind of thing that we're talking about there.
And this stuff is tied intimately to the geometry of the universe. Considering the quality and quantity of information that he has shared, it makes you really start considering that this next part can be true.
Okay, quantity, yeah. Drunvalo Melchizedek has written a lot. Quality, however, I've yet to see anything that's actually one, significant and verifiable, and then verified. That's it. It's all either trivial or non-verifiable, or verifiable but not actually then having been verified, instead being contradicted. So the quality is really, really low.
The Great Pyramid has a legendary missing capstone. According to the Emerald Tablets, deep under the Great Pyramid there is a room called the Hall of Records. This room was not built by Thoth and long predates the Atlantean civilization.
Then where is it? Like, seriously, we have technology to scan for underground voids, right? We have, like, seismometers and all sorts of ground-penetrating radar and stuff like that. It shouldn't be a question as to whether or not this exists.
Within the Hall of Records is the capstone of the pyramid, which is 5.5 inches high, solid gold, and completely holographic image of the Great Pyramid.
It's either solid gold or it's a holographic image of the pyramid. Solid gold isn't a hologram. You can't put a hologram inside of solid gold because a hologram is just light that is basically acting as if it were cast by an object that isn't really there. There are ways to make holograms, right? They're essentially cool physical optical illusions, but you can't put them inside of solid objects that are impenetrable to light in the first place. It's literal nonsense to say that something is a solid gold hologram. You can have a hologram of solid gold. You could have a golden colored hologram, but if you have a chunk of gold, you can't make it into a hologram that is still the solid piece of gold, nor can you project a hologram into it.